LEGO Star Wars has released many different set waves for every Star Wars movie and TV show. And while some are very successful, others are quite overlooked. I want to look back at the entire wave of sets based on the rise of Skywalker. And in this overview, I want to discuss why I think some of these sets are actually better than we realized when they first came out. The Rise of Skywalker was released as the final movie in the now titled Skywalker saga, concluding the sequel trilogy as well as the main storyline as a whole. Despite the fact that these final three movies didn't sit too well with the fans, I think many of the LEGO sets based on the sequels were really good, and way better than many people gave them credit for. For the final movie, LEGO released 10 different playsets under the sub-theme in 2019 and 2020. And the first set I want to look at is the Resistance A-Wing Starfighter. This was the last time we saw an A-Wing in its own playset like this, and honestly it was one of the best depictions of the A-Wing too, with a very good shape and a good color scheme. This set retailed for $30, which I think is the perfect price point for a set like this, and it included two exclusive minifigures, the standout being Snap Wexley of course. Despite retailing for $30, this one is now worth around $45, which still isn't too bad for this one. Alongside the A-Wing, we also saw the Resistance Y-Wing Starfighter, which was also the last Y-Wing playset we ever saw as well. This is one of my personal favorites from the wave, and it overall just looks really good with a really neat design. Despite retailing for $70, this one is still available at around this price on the aftermarket, perhaps even cheaper, which I think is really good for if you want an affordable and generally good Y-Wing in your collection. Now, in my opinion, one of the most underrated or overlooked LEGO Star Wars sets is the Pisana Speeder Chase. This is a set I always thought looked so good, with two unique and fun speeders included, a decent selection of minifigures, and overall just a fun set. This one retailed for $40 and once again is still worth around that price today. And comparing it to other sets at around the same price point, this just looks like such a good valued set. The standout is that red skiff-like speeder, and I think it looks like such a good design that can be used for several different projects too, and I think this set deserves a lot more attention overall. In 2019, LEGO finally fixed Kylo Ren's shuttle by giving it the proper black and red color scheme that the ship needed. This new playset is widely considered as the best LEGO Star Wars set from this movie, and its price definitely reflects that, as it retailed for $130, but is said to be worth around $170 right now. Other than the updated color scheme, we also had a more accurate design in terms of the functionality in the wings, and what feels like overall a better playset for slightly more expensive than the 2015 set. The minifigure selection here is rather good too, with two Knights of Ren minifigures included, as well as some First Order Troopers, the only version of General Pride, and of course, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, another exclusive one for this set. This is one of the very few sets of the wave that is somewhat recognized today still. Another set from this wave that is rather recognized is the Millennium Falcon. This is also by far the set that had the most shelf life from this wave, and it only retired at the end of 2024, despite releasing in 2019, and this was only due to the fact that a new Falcon released this same year. In my opinion, this is definitely the best Millennium Falcon playset we have ever seen, with an improved build and design, and actually some really good minifigures included, despite being sequel characters that people generally aren't too interested in. Overall, for $170, this set did feel quite good, perhaps a little bit overpriced, as this one is only worth around $130 today. So relatively fair if you need to get a Millennium Falcon in your collection. Now looking at some sets that released in 2020, the The first one is the Sith Troopers Battle Pack. This was a rather good battle pack for this movie, although it is quite strange that we actually only got one Sith Trooper, despite it being a Sith Trooper battle pack. The remaining minifigures are still rather good though, but ultimately 3 Sith Troopers would have been the best thing here, alongside the officer. This was one of the last battle packs retailing for $15 too, which is probably the ideal and perfect price for a set like this. The second set released this year was the Sith TIE Fighter, which in my opinion is actually the worst set of the wave, purely because the required stand looks quite flimsy and unfinished, and I just don't like that it needs a stand to be able to, well, stand. Other than that, the set isn't terrible, and apparently it's rather sturdy and stable, which from the outside is something you wouldn't really assume. We got some decent minifigures included here, but other than the Knight of Ren, this one wasn't too interesting. This set also felt rather overpriced at $80, and today it is only worth around $65. We also saw a brand new Resistance X-Wing for this movie, being Poe's new orange and white X-Wing. This was a really interesting color scheme for the X-Wing that looks very good in LEGO form. It is rather simple in shape and style to the previous Resistance X-Wings, and once again serves the purpose of an X-Wing playset quite well. For $90, I think it was fairly priced for what you got, with a good design and a decent set of minifigures, and it is overall one that is often overlooked as well. This year, LEGO did however release one of the lesser liked sets from this movie as well, and that is the Knights of Ren transport ship. I think people simply had way higher expectations for this set, both in terms of the ship itself and the minifigure selection. Looking at that first, I think most people hoped this would be a set including most or all of the Knights of Ren members, similar to what we saw with the Bad Batch a year later. But this definitely wasn't the case, and we saw only 2 of these minifigures, which at least completed the collection as far as I am aware. As for the ship itself, the design felt a bit empty, as there was no interior and it felt like an open, unfinished shell in some ways, and for $70, it didn't feel good at all. Regardless, it looks cool still, and I think it is a little bit overhated. Now the final set I want to look at is the buildable Dio, one of the earlier droids in this buildable line. This one was really cool, and is a very underrated set from this movie as well. I think the build and design looks so good for this droid, and depicts the character in LEGO really well. $70 for this feels very steep though, considering something like R2 many years later sold for only $100 and is basically double in size and piece count. And based on that, looking back, this Dio feels way too overpriced. That said, I think all of these sets have something about them that make them quite unique and special, between all the good and the bad. Because of the hate the sequels received, these sets were often overlooked and disregarded for no other reason, opposed to other sets based on the prequels and the original trilogy. A few of these sets are simply very good, but yet again, they gained little to no value and little to no attention, and some of them are worth less than their retail price, which is a really good thing for fans of today to pick them up for a good price. But all that said, let me know what you think down below, and then I will see you all in the next one. God bless you, and cheers.